Hello. Welcome to TOPHER'S Stories, where stories comes alive. Please subscribe and with friends. Now, relax and enjoy the story. The morning light poured through the tall windows of the Morgan's luxury penthouse in Victoria Island, Lagos. The entire living room looked like something out of a lifestyle magazine. White marble floors, gold accents, huge houseplants, and floor-length curtains that danced with the breeze from the balcony. Daniel Morgan stood in front of the full-length mirror, adjusting the cuffs of his navy blue designer suit. His gold wristwatch shimmered as he moved. A small smile played on his lips as he stared at himself. Clean-shaven, handsome, confident. Claire Morgan walked out of their bedroom, still tying the belt of her silk robe. Her skin was flawless, her posture graceful. But this morning, she moved slower than usual. Her left cheek was slightly swollen, though well hidden behind careful makeup. "Morning," she said softly. Daniel turned toward her, his smile fading just a bit. He studied her face for a second too long, his eyes resting on the exact spot she had tried to hide. "You're still wearing that robe?" he asked, voice sharp. "We have a brunch meeting in an hour, with Tony and his wife." "I know," Claire replied quickly, avoiding eye contact. "I just wanted to make you coffee first." He walked past her without another word. The coldness in his eyes didn't match the warm image they often posted online. Later that morning, Claire uploaded a photo on Instagram. Her and Daniel standing by the balcony, smiling with the caption, "My world, my man, my peace. Hashtag power couple, hashtag blessed." Within minutes, comments flooded in. "At Queen_Mimi, you guys are couple goals." At the Brown Sister, "Claire, what's your skincare routine? You glow different." At Maluxury_ing, "If love was a picture, it would be this." Claire stared at the comments. She smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. Behind her, Daniel scrolled through his phone, talking loudly on a business call. She could hear the edge in his voice. He was already annoyed about something. Last night still echoed in her head. She had asked him a simple question. "Why did you come home so late?" And his reaction was quick and cruel. A raised voice, angry words, and then that sudden sting of his palm across her cheek. It wasn't the first time, but it felt worse somehow. He had apologized after, said he was tired, stressed, promised it wouldn't happen again. He had kissed her forehead like nothing happened. "You just need to stop pushing me, Claire. That's all." Now, watching him from across the room, she said nothing. She just applied another layer of powder and prepared to play her role, Daniel's perfect wife. It was Sunday afternoon, and the sun glinted off the expensive glass walls of one of Lagos's most elite rooftop restaurants, the Eden Lounge. Daniel and Claire sat at a long table with another couple, Tony, Daniel's longtime business partner, and his wife, Linda. Everyone was dressed to impress. Daniel wore a crisp white shirt with gold cufflinks, Claire in a cream midi dress that hugged her figure modestly. Waiters moved around like clockwork, pouring drinks and delivering appetizers. "So," Linda smiled, sipping her mimosa, "you both just hit 500,000 followers on Instagram. That's insane." Daniel gave his trademark grin. "People love a beautiful life, and I love giving them something to look at." Claire chuckled softly. "I just hope they know it's not all filters." Daniel's smile dropped. "What does that mean?" he asked, a little too sharply. Claire quickly looked at Linda and Tony, trying to lighten the mood. "I mean, just saying. Real life isn't always perfect, right?" Daniel leaned in slightly, his voice now low but tight. "Why would you say that here? You always know how to ruin a good moment." Claire's smile faltered. "I didn't mean anything bad." Tony, sensing the tension, tried to change the topic. "Bro, did you see the new high-rise plan for Lekki Phase 1? The design is crazy." Daniel nodded, tried to recover, but the irritation didn't fully leave his face. The waiter arrived to take their orders. Claire glanced at the menu. "I think I'll just have a salad," she said. Daniel looked at her, annoyed again. "Why would you order salad? We're not at a diet convention. Be serious." Claire laughed softly, clearly uncomfortable. "I just don't feel too hungry, that's all." Daniel leaned closer again. "Don't embarrass me, Claire. Claire's eyes darted to Linda. She gave her a small, awkward smile. "I'll have the grilled fish then." The waiter nodded and walked away. 15 minutes later, the food arrived. Daniel took one bite of his steak and immediately frowned. "What the hell is this?" Claire looked up. "What's wrong?" "This meat is tough," Daniel said, loud enough for the waiter to hear. "Tell the chef he's a joke." Tony shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe it just needs a little sauce." Claire gently touched Daniel's hand. "Babe, don't worry. We can ask for something else." Daniel jerked his hand away. "Why are you talking over me?" he snapped. Claire froze. Everyone at the table turned quiet. Linda looked down at her plate. Tony cleared his throat. "Daniel, it's not that deep, man. We can just—" And then it happened. Daniel stood up. Without warning, he swung his open palm and slapped Claire across the face. The sound cracked through the air like lightning. People at nearby tables gasped. Claire's head turned sharply from the force. Her hand flew to her cheek. Her eyes widened in shock. Not because it was the first time, but because it was the first time in public. Someone screamed, "What the hell?" A phone camera flashed. Linda jumped to her feet. "Daniel, are you crazy?" Tony stood too, grabbing Daniel by the arm. "Are you mad? What's wrong with you?" Claire sat frozen. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Daniel seemed to realize where he was. People were standing. A man was already holding up his phone, recording. Tony shouted, "Stop recording, I beg." But it was too late. The video had already begun spreading. Claire slowly stood up. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I'll go home now." "Claire," Daniel started. She didn't respond. She just turned and walked away, her heels clicking against the tile floor, her head held high. That evening, Twitter exploded. At Lagos Tea Blog, Daniel Morgan slaps his wife Claire in public over lunch. "We got the video. This is not okay." Video, 1:26 minutes. At Women's Voice Africa, domestic violence is not just a private matter. It's a social disease. Claire, we stand with you. Hashtag justice for Claire. Hashtag say no to abuse. At gossiproom_9ja. From couple goals to public disgrace. Daniel Morgan, this is not it. Hashtag Daniel canceled. Hashtag power couple crash. Instagram influencers, celebrities, and random people shared the clip. Some tried to justify it. Most condemned it. Claire's silence was louder than any press release. Daniel posted a short statement on his story. "What happened today was a private misunderstanding. Please respect our privacy as we handle things as a family. I love my wife deeply." Comments flooded in. At Miss_Oma, "Private misunderstanding? You slapped her in a restaurant, idiot." At Sugar Boyk, "You love her deeply but beat her publicly? Make it make sense." At Nenny Official, "Claire, if you ever speak, we are listening." Claire said nothing. She didn't post, didn't tweet, didn't go live. She stayed silent, but her silence was starting to feel like a statement on its own. Daniel stood in his office, staring at the city skyline, trying to ignore the ringing of his phone. But it wouldn't stop. His assistant, Maid, walked in slowly, holding a printed email. "Sir, it's Tony." Daniel turned sharply. "What about him?" Maid placed the paper on the desk. "He's pulling out of the Lagos Marina deal and the Dubai expansion. He said it's best to distance his brand from controversy." Daniel snatched the paper, eyes scanning the words. "With all due respect, Daniel, this situation is bigger than both of us. I can't let my reputation burn with yours. I hope you understand." Daniel crumpled the paper. "Tony and I have been friends for 10 years. We built this company together. And now he's leaving." Maid said carefully, "Sir, that's not all." He handed over a brown envelope. Daniel opened it. His face went white. A court document. Asset freeze notice. Claire's lawyers had filed an injunction to lock all joint accounts and properties until the court ruled on the ownership structure. His cars, his homes, even the company cards, all blocked. "No, no, no," he whispered. He picked up his phone and dialed her number again. Still switched off. Then he opened Instagram. Under his last post, the fake apology, were thousands of comments. At Tosin the Realist, how the mighty fall. At Zerites, from power couple to power collapse. At Effect Queen, he hit her. She hit his bank account. Balance restored. Hashtag goodbye Daniel. Hashtag Claire the Queen. Hashtag from silence to strength. Later that evening, Daniel sat in a boardroom at the Morgan Heights office with 2 lawyers and 3 investors on a Zoom call. One of the investors, a white-haired man from South Africa, looked directly into the camera. Daniel, he said firmly, your name has become a liability. We can't afford to be associated with you. Your wife's documents made it clear. She owns 48% of this company, and she wants out. That means we lose almost half of our assets overnight. Another investor chimed in. This isn't just about bad PR. It's about fraud, abuse, and betrayal. You stole company money to fund an affair. That's criminal. Daniel looked tired, defeated. Can we settle this quietly? The lawyers exchanged glances. One replied, Claire's terms are coming, but it won't be quiet. Later that night, Daniel sat alone in his massive, dark apartment. No staff, no calls, no Claire, just silence. He scrolled through the internet, watching as his world collapsed in slow motion. One article headline read, From CEO to Cautionary Tale, The Rise and Fall of Daniel Morgan. And beneath it, a quote from Claire in court filings. He thought I would be silent forever. He forgot silence can echo louder than noise. Daniel closed a laptop, held his head in his hands, and whispered to no one, What have I done? A week later, social media buzzed with the news. Claire Morgan agrees to exclusive live interview with Women's Truth Africa. The event was scheduled to be streamed across YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram Live. Millions set reminders. That night, Claire sat across from journalist Linda Okonjo, wearing a simple white blouse and soft makeup. Her natural hair was pulled back into a bun, her eyes calm, her presence powerful. Linda smiled softly. Claire, thank you for being here. You've been silent for a long time. Why now? Claire took a breath. Because silence is good, but sometimes the truth must be spoken, not just for me, but for every woman who is watching. Linda nodded. Let's start with this. Were you really abused? Claire looked into the camera, her voice steady. Yes, emotionally, physically, financially. A hush fell over the audience online. Linda leaned forward. Why didn't you leave earlier? Claire's eyes didn't flinch. Because in African homes, we're taught that a woman must endure, pray more, cook better. Don't shame your family. I believed those words until they almost broke me. The comment section blew up. At Amaka Speaks, she said what needed to be said. At Africa Feminine, this is not just about Claire, this is about us. Hashtag Court of Women. Hashtag Claire told the truth. Hashtag end the silence. Linda continued gently. Some people say you planned everything, that your silence was a trap. Claire gave a small, tired smile. I didn't plan to be abused. I planned to survive it. She paused. I stayed quiet because noise is expected. Rage is expected. But I chose to document everything. I knew that one day, the truth would be my weapon. Linda sat back, visibly moved. And now, Claire looked directly into the camera. Now I'm free. And I want every woman watching this to know, you don't have to wait for permission to leave pain. You don't need to bleed to prove loyalty. You are allowed to choose yourself. The chat section exploded. Thousands of women posted their stories, pictures, and tears. Others simply wrote, Thank you, Claire. Later that night, Claire sat on the balcony of her mother's house, sipping tea. Mrs. Ruth joined her. You did well, my daughter. You didn't fight like a lion. You fought like a queen. Claire smiled gently. Now the world knows who I really am. Her phone buzzed with a new post notification. At Women's Truth Africa, the Claire Morgan interview hits 15 million views in 24 hours. A record, a movement, a new voice for African women. Meanwhile, in a cold, quiet apartment in Ikoyi, Daniel sat watching the same interview. He watched as Claire, graceful, glowing, spoke truths he never imagined she'd dare say out loud. She never raised her voice, but every word felt like thunder. And for the first time, Daniel realized he hadn't just lost a wife. He'd lost a woman the world now loved. The mansion stood silent. No music, no laughter, no staff. Just echoes of a life that once sparkled. Daniel sat on the edge of the massive king-size bed, staring at an old photo in his hands. It was framed in gold. A picture of him and Claire from 4 years ago, laughing at a beach in Zanzibar. Her head rested on his shoulder, his arms wrapped around her waist. They looked happy, real. He traced her smile with his thumb. Then he looked around. The bed was empty. The wardrobe was half open, but her things were gone. The mirror, once filled with her perfumes, makeup, and jewelry, now stood bare. The scent of her had faded. Only silence remained. Tasha was gone. She had packed up the week before, left without a word. Her last message was short. "I'm not going down with you." Even the staff had slowly disappeared. No one wanted to be associated with a man whose name had become poison. Daniel walked slowly into the kitchen, opened the fridge, empty. He grabbed a bottle of water and sat alone at the dining table where they used to host dinner parties with celebrities, politicians, and foreign investors. Now, not even an insect buzzed. He drank slowly, staring into nothing. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. He stood up quickly, hope rising for a second. Was it Claire? He opened the door. It was a courier. "Good evening, sir. Document from Mr. Daniel Morgan." Daniel signed quietly. The man handed over a sealed envelope and left. Daniel stood in the hallway, staring at it. He knew what it was. He walked back into the living room and tore it open. Legal notice. Finalized divorce agreement. The papers were signed. Official. Complete. He sat down on the cold tile floor, the letter in his hands. His chest tightened. His throat burned. And for the first time in years, he cried. Not the angry, frustrated kind. Real, hollow, gut-wrenching tears. He remembered her laughter, her patience, her prayers, her silence, and then her strength. He had thought he broke her, but she had only bent long enough to build her wings. Now she had flown, and he was left behind, with nothing but echoes. 1 year later, the city buzzed with life. Billboards lit up Lagos highways. Magazines flashed her name. TV stations aired her interviews. Claire Morgan Foundation, a safe haven for abused women, was changing lives across Nigeria. The tagline was bold, from silence to strength. Claire stepped out of a black SUV wearing a soft cream suit, her afro puffed high, heels clicking as she walked into a brand-new shelter building in Abuja. Cameras flashed. Reporters called her name. She waved politely but kept walking. Calm, graceful, focused. Inside the hall, dozens of women clapped as she walked the front. Some had scars. Some held babies. Some were just starting to smile again. She smiled at them all. "I see myself in every single one of you," she said into the microphone. "I stayed quiet for too long. But now, I speak for those still trapped in rooms with no voice. You are not alone. You are not weak. You are warriors." Tears rolled down cheeks in the crowd. She didn't cry. She stood tall, not out of revenge, out of purpose. Elsewhere, in a rickety yellow taxi stuck in traffic, Daniel sat in the back seat wearing a faded polo shirt, unshaven, and slumped in the corner. He had sold the mansion. His accounts were dry. His name had vanished from every company board. The driver glanced at him through the mirror. "Boss, you day okay?" Daniel nodded without speaking. The taxi rolled slowly through Koi, past a new billboard on a tall building. Daniel looked up. There she was, Claire, wearing a white gown, arms crossed, head high. The billboard read, "Claire Morgan Foundation, breaking the silence." Daniel stared at it. She looked like royalty. No, not just royalty. A queen, not because of power, because of peace. He turned away. The driver spoke again. "That woman's strong. Oh, she went through hell and still come out shining. May God bless her." Daniel didn't reply. He looked down at his hands. Empty now. Hands that once held her, but had hurt her instead. Hands that destroyed everything. He whispered to himself, I had a queen and I broke her crown. Back at the foundation, Claire stood on the rooftop garden, watching the sunset. Beside her stood her assistant, Joy. Ma, BBC called again. They want to feature you in their International Women of the Year documentary. Claire smiled softly. Tell them I'll think about it. You always say that. I'm not chasing fame, Joy, Claire said gently. I just want one woman, somewhere, to find her voice. Joy nodded. You've done more than that. You've started a movement. Claire walked slowly to the edge of the rooftop, looked out over the city. The same city where she once felt small, trapped, and invisible. Now, she was everywhere, not to seek revenge, but to bring healing. She closed her eyes for a moment, the breeze dancing around her. When she opened them, she smiled, not the smile of a woman who won, the smile of a woman who survived, who rebuilt, who finally was at peace.